All right. Well, so here is my week one presentation. My name is Spencer Loop, and I chose Cassandra and Spark. Both are Apache um, productions, and I found out they were a lot more similar than I expected. So starting with Cassandra. Cassandra, like the other, is an open source data set, and it tends to handle large data sets better than I kind of draw the industry standard at Hadoop. So if you can compare it to Hadoop, Cassandra can handle a lot more large of data sets. So they use a node type architecture, which I definitely had to learn about because I'm not familiar too much in the subject. Um, Nodes, they kind of seem like a different bookmark, right? So you can have a whole separate database on this and then have an entirely different thing, but they're independent of each other. And they just kind of stack, and there's probably endless amounts of these nodes in the Cassandra architecture. So Cassandra is really beneficial for scalability and replicability. For scalability, this means that it can take the data sets that you use now, and if they were to increase tenfold, 100-fold, Cassandra would be able to take that. Um, to piggyback off of that, replicability, Cassandra has a very great application of taking one data set and replicating into another node where you can do separate things to the two different data sets. You can analyze them differently. Um, I thought that was very interesting. And then it also has goodness, let me explain this in the best way I can. Um, it can use it can sense that other data is older than the other and give you the most relative data to what you're looking for um, on the two nodes, just discerning between them. And then I just wanted to say that Cassandra has an incredible user history right now, including like all the information of Netflix users, Facebook, Twitter, messages, all these things, they're all stored with Cassandra. So that can kind of show the breadth of how how large that these data sets can really get because those just have millions, if not billions, of users. It's very impressive. Um, so my next one was Spark. Um, like I said, they kind of became a little bit more similar than I thought. Of course, this one's an open source. They're both ran by the nonprofit. And Spark, judging to Hadoop, has incredibly fast processing. That is their kind of not gimmick, but that's their feature is they are fast. They process very fast. It can take a lot of graphs. Graphing is part of Spark's architecture that they can understand graph data and display that better than certain other types of data sets. And then it also uses a machine learning library. I tried to look at this as much as I can, but it seemed to be that it can kind of understand the levels of shoot the levels of data that it has and kind of learn based on what it receives from the user and use that to better determine search results that they're trying to receive from the data or looking from the data. The negative that I found from Spark was reading, right? That was kind of my mumbled jargon there. Um, Back to the positives, however, Spark is incredibly beneficial for live data streaming, for live processing. And of course, this goes with um, error, shoot, error, error percentage. It's like if it's being inputted live, it can of course be flexible to go back and adjust these data terms because it was receiving at such a fast pace. That's one of the benefits of Spark. It can actually handle that where a lot of can't. So because the reason that it is so fast is because it uses RAM processing rather than working on memory or working upon a different aspect of the software and hardware. So it can produce faster speeds than I believe most other data sets. And of course, like I mentioned before, with the live data processing, it can be extremely flexible to go back and change or change the stream. It's pretty cool like that. So Cassandra usage in a business setting. Excuse me. I thought of this as like inputting customer information. I am very on the fringe of big data. I am not too familiar with the facts, but I know that customer information on, their email, all the things that we have to put in, a lot of companies such as Netflix and Facebook can all store that in Cassandra and display it the best way that they can. Um, Moving forward, replicating the sets of data for usage. We can oftentimes with that node architecture replicate the data to discern between what we want from the data. So if we want if we wanted to study one analytic on this one and one analytic on this one, it's really easy to copy and paste the hierarchy and the architecture of everything that's underlying to replace it into the other and then use that data how we like. Okay. So looking back, if we wanted to look at historical sets, from years ago or analytics from monthly, it's very easy to do that with that node architecture to replicate and give the same set of data with different meanings, right? So we can use the same set of data and occur a lot of different conclusions from it. And then, of course, the last part of Cassandra in business usage is how large it can get. If your business were to take off 10-fold, 100-fold, like I mentioned, it's going to be able to take that. If anybody's business that we could discuss is going to be larger than Facebook, I guess we can look elsewhere, but it's really going to take whatever you throw at it. And also it has, just has such a great reputation with that. I think they are just crossing over 10 years on Cassandra, if I'm correct. But goodness, it's been such a beneficial tool for a lot of businesses, and I would definitely recommend it in a lot of cases. Moving on to Spark in a business setting. I think that businesses should use Spark when deadlines are near, right? We talk about the fast processing speed using RAM. These topics are really important if that's what's going on in the business, right? We also use this because Hadoop does not do all the things that Spark does, right? It can use the structured SQL language, right? It can use the graphs and also do it in process a lot faster than traditional data sets. I also believe Spark is newer on the block. But yeah, so going to that, I thought of a good application of this would be managing inventory with large sets. I think that that's something that a lot of business can have a lot of without being an incredibly large business, because I'm so unfamiliar with large businesses that I can't even put it into words. However, you can, I mean, even some of the dealerships I work at have, 400 new cars in inventory, 150 used, 75 wholesale, all these different things. And inventory is really a practical use of this. It can really take the input of all this data very fast with the RAM processing, and it can display that just as well, however you want it, in structured data or in graph format, however. And then, of course, live data streaming, that's Spark's calling card, right? They're going to be really good when it has to be live data input from a live stream or data analytics from sports or a number of really different things, but live data is definitely that. And if I were to recommend Cassandra or Spark or the other, that's tough, right? I kind of spoke how they became a lot more similar than I ever thought when I just looked at two different ones and I chose those out of the list. So of course, there's never one perfect answer for everything. It's going to be depending on the specific needs. It's going to depend on the type of data, the size of data that you use. Spark is really good at inputting data very fast, but one of their drawbacks is the reading portion of it. It's not as perfect to read, and it's not as fast to do so. You can kind of miss out on a couple things with that. On the other side, Cassandra can take so much data, replicate it, and that's kind of one of their benefits is how easy they are to read that data and work with it. So um, one of the absolute one of the absolutes is if you're doing streaming, if you're live data, you're working with that, you really need to use Spark. It's almost the industry standard. There are, of course, others that may benefit in other cases, but if you're using live data, my go-to would be to recommend Spark. And on the other side, if you have a lot more structured data, go with Cassandra because that is one of Spark's shortcomings. So in a business application, you really just have to weigh the options. Um, like I gave the idea of the car dealership earlier, and I think I would use a lot of Cassandra because it sounds like a lot of structured data rather than the biggest benefit being live and fast. So I guess in the situation that I've thought of, I would go with Cassandra. Um, but yeah, and then here's a couple of my sources. I added them in all the speaker notes as well, if that yes. Okay, so yes, so that's gonna wrap it up for me. Really hoping to add into my knowledge about big data because I felt like a lot of the sources that I was reading, it was just like I don't want to say professional jargon, but it was just like they left out the one part that I needed to understand it. Like I was tracking all of it except for the one part, and it seemed like that one part was missing on almost every source I could find. So I hope this satisfied your requirements. Um, Gave it a lot of effort and all that. So thank you so much for watching and have a great night.